Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. Yes, still continuing on with the 31 Days of Horror, about halfway through. This time, we're going to review the horror movie called Mr. Crocket. No, I don't think you want to go into his neighborhood.
Y'all ready for this?
Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. Now, Mr. Crocket is a 2024 supernatural American horror film that was directed by Brandon Espy, written by Brandon Espy and Carl Reed. Now, the film stars Jerika Hinton, Aidan Garvin, Christopher Lloyd, and Elvis Nolasco. Now, in this film, a mother embarks on a perilous quest to rescue her son from a dynamic children's show host who is kidnapping kids. Oh my God. Now, I'm sure most horror fans remember watching children's TV shows when they were growing up as a kid. Because I know during the 70s, I would be watching Sesame Street. Everyone watched Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and The Electric Company. Those were the shows that I watched during when I was growing up as a kid. And later on, during the 80s and 90s, we saw a lot more children's TV shows coming out, such as Barney and Friends, Pee Wee's Playhouse, Blue's Clues, and Bill Nye the Science Guy, and plus a whole other bunch of children's shows. Now, why am I talking about children's shows? Well, you'll get to the point because now, with horror filmmakers turning classic children's TV characters, such as Disney's Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse, mainly his Steamboat Willie's character, fairy tale characters, such as Cinderella, Peter Pan, and Pinocchio into horror movies, it wouldn't be long before they create a horror movie based upon a children's TV show. I mean, come on now. With all the horror movies that we've seen with Winnie the Pooh, the Steamboat Willie's character, as a matter of fact, there's another horror movie. I think it's called, I can't remember the name of it, but I know it's based upon um, Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie's character. I think it's called Screamboat. That I just saw the trailer when I went to go see Terrifier 3 in the movies. Obviously, we had, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. We got Pinocchio. We got Sleeping Beauty. All these horror movies based upon children's programming, based upon children's books, and of course, fairy tale characters. It wouldn't be long before we get a horror movie based upon a children's television show. So that brings us to American writer director Brandon Espy's latest project and his feature directorial debut, a horror film he calls Mr. Crocket. Now, after a terrifying opening, we're introduced to Summer, a young African American woman who is attending the funeral of her husband Gerald, along with their son Major. Fortunately, it seems like Gerald has passed away from some illness. We really don't know what he passed away from, but we're at his funeral. And unfortunately, Major's being a real brat kid, and we'll talk about that later, trying to deal with the loss of his father, and she's trying to deal with the loss of, obviously, the love of her life. Later on, as we see Summer struggling with Major and dealing with their loss, everything changes when a VHS tapes arrives into their house that plays a recording of a children's TV show called Mr. Crocket. Everything seems fine at first. He finally gets Major to sit down and stop misbehaving, and he's enjoying the show at first. But the more Major watches the tape, the more obsessed he becomes, Mr. Crocket, and he becomes being a spoiled brat again. Now, isn't long when Summer will have to risk everything to rescue her son from the now dangerous and evil Mr. Crocket or lose Major forever. And that's basically what the film is about. Now, you really have to give Brandon Espy credit as he decided to use an African American family for this particular film. Something we really haven't seen that much in this type of setting. I mean, we've seen African American in horror films before. Obviously, we're getting more used to it now, but for a film with this type of setup, this is something really haven't seen before. So this gives us a different dynamic regarding Summer and her relationship with Major and how they both deal with the loss of Gerald. As we see throughout the film, we see her struggling, trying to at least communicate or try to make Major's life more easy, but for some reason the kid is just being a really bratty kid. I mean, trust me, back in the day, some of the stuff this kid does, it's whooping on because you need to actually ass whip for some of the stuff and the disrespect he shows Summer. Now, when you look at their relationship, you can see how Major becomes attached to Mr. Crockett. Now, while his relationship with his mother Summer deteriorates, it's somewhat similar to what we saw in the horror film The Babadook, where Amelia Vanek is struggles with her relationship with her son Samuel after the death of her husband. We both have similar situations where, her husband died in a car accident. She's struggling with her own grief, and unfortunately, her son Samuel is acting like a bratty ass kid, and she's struggling to deal with his grief along with her own grief. And then you can see the similar situations between these two films. Now, while the Babadook has a more serious tone for a horror film, this film, Mr. Crockett, is like the campy horror films that we saw during the 80s and 90s. Very campy aesthetic right here. Um, Not as serious tone as the Babadook, but you can see where Brandon was going as far as the tone is concerned with this film. I mean, it's like you combine Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood with Sleepaway Camp, and this is what you get for a horror film. I mean, there are some nice set pieces that we see throughout the film. I like Mr. Crockett's way how he enters Major's life and how he also enters the other kids. I thought they did a nice staging job of how they set up Mr. Crockett. Nice innocence at first, but we know there's something evil beside underneath him. Speaking of Mr. Crockett, I really love the performance of Elvis Nolasco. He plays him like a likable hero to the children because you feel safe with him, singing happy songs and eating food in order to stay healthy and strong. It's just like a really nice version of Mr. Rogers or any of the other children's TV programs that we see, whether it's Pee Wee's Playhouse, Blue Cruise, the Teletubbies. They sing, they dance, they have a nice good time, they play nice games, and he try to teach kids right from wrong. That's what you think of Mr. Crockett or Mr. Crockett when you first see him. But underneath his wonderful smile and nice song lies an evil and corrupt soul who will kill the bad adults in very violent and bloody ways for mistreating the children. How dare you mistreat your kids? I'll show you a thing or two. Now, Jerika Hinton, known for her role in the ABC TV medical drama Grey's Anatomy, she does a good job in playing Summer too. I thought she was very well for the role. I mean, while she does love Major, she's also frustrated with his constant whining and complaining, making her say things she regrets later on in the film. I mean, there is a point in the film where her frustration comes to a boiling point, and you get to see she's just totally frustrated with Major, and that's one of the reasons why he gravitates to Mr. Crockett. But it's a great way to show the frustration of a mother trying to communicate with her kid. He does obviously does want to communicate with her. Of course, however, she will stop at nothing to save Major from Mr. Crockett, along with the other missing children, other children that have gone missing, because there's other children that are missing in this film. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the movie has a very campy vibe from the horror films that came during the late 80s or early 90s. Like I said before, you got a little like Sleepaway Camp, some other type of slasher films that came up, but they were very campy, not real serious at all like that. It's a nice tone, nice atmosphere. I thought Brandon did a good job of how he sets up the film. So he filmed it very well. I mean, we also have some nice practical effects. We see that in the beginning of the film. And I love some of the set pieces that Brandon uses, especially during the third act of the film. I thought it was a nice tone or nice final way to show the real Mr. Crockett. Now, unfortunately, there are some pacing issues as we get an exposition dump in the third act, whereas we get to hear all about Mr. Crockett's backstory and along with a character that really doesn't add anything to the plot or the movie. It's kind of a waste of time. Now I understand the reason why we have to have the exposition dump, but for me, it kind of halts the film when we're right to the point where we need to right to the point where whether or not Summer can rescue Major and the other kids, but we have to take almost a whole 15-20 minute exposition dump to tell about Emmanuel Crockett's backstory. It could have skimmed that down a little bit more. But overall, it's an okay horror movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. It has an interesting premise. Good performances from Jerika Hinton and Elvis Lasco. Some good practical effects. Unfortunately, it doesn't reach the level of becoming a decent horror film. It's okay, and that's about it. So I'm going to give Mr. Crockett only 2 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. It's a nice horror film. You can enjoy it for what it is. Nice campy style, nice aesthetics, some decent kills, good performances from the lead actress. Obviously, I did not like the child actress that played Major. He was a whiny ass brat, but I get that's what they want him to do. But I just he just made his whole scenes were annoying and got on my nerves. Kind of not what you want a child actor to do, is to make you not care about the child because he's so annoying and so whiny. It's one thing I didn't like. And that extra 15 20 minute exposition done kind of stretch the film too long. But overall, it's an okay job, Brandon. I'm pretty sure, if he once he gets his act together and comes, tries to trim some of the writing down, I think he can be an effective horror film director. So there you have it, horror fans. That is my video and review of Mr. Crockett. Hope you did enjoy. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share. It really helps out with that YouTube algorithm. Have you seen Mr. Crockett? You want to join his neighborhood? I don't think so. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I tell you your thought about the film. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button. Ring that notification bell. That way we notify anytime when I put up new videos such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G. And always remember that horror rules. And I see you in the next video. That guy, stay safe out there.